Hello, I'm Susan Nash, AAPG, and I really have an honor to be able to introduce you to a good friend, Rebecca Dodge, who has been in leadership positions at AAPG for many years and is a retired geosciences professor from Wichita Falls in Midwestern State University located in Wichita Falls. And now she's speaking with us from Midland, and we're really happy that you're here. So Rebecca, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure, thank you. I'm glad to have a chance to talk with you today. I was a geologist beginning in the 1970s. I started working in 1976 for the U.S. Geological Survey while I was in graduate school, and I worked for them the whole time I was in graduate school. Then I went into the petroleum industry working for Exxon Research, and then I went to Hunt Overseas Oil Company, had my own company for several years. So I was in the petroleum industry for about 16 years full time. And then I went into academia. And first I was just a research scientist at UT El Paso, but that's where I started working with training teachers and training them in earth science and environmental science. So I got an academic teaching position out in Georgia at University of West Georgia. I taught there for 9 years. Then I came to Midwestern State in Wichita Falls. I taught there for 10 years and I retired 2 years ago. I was working with teachers, either the pre-service education majors or in-service teachers all that time, and I'm still doing that now. That's what I'm doing in my retirement, is I'm helping to prepare high school earth science teachers.
Oh, that's so interesting. So I know that there are a lot of professionals now that have many years of experience in the industry, and they either want to volunteer to work with K through 12, or they might even think about becoming a teacher. What are some of the things that might be nice for them to know?
I think one of the most important things is to transmit the excitement that you have with doing your job and how you realize that you're having an impact on our earth and on energy and energy resources, how important that is. I very often run into students who are thinking about majoring in geology, and they really don't know what geologists do. They don't understand that it's actually pretty exciting. If you're a petroleum geologist, or if you're working in hydrology, or you're an environmental geoscientist, transmit that joy that you feel in doing your work. And that's if you're standing in front of a fifth grade classroom talking to them about plate tectonics. Introduce yourself and let them know that you really love your work. That's, I think, one of the most critical things. And also that your work has an impact on our society and is making an important contribution, because that's what kids want to know today. They want to know how they're going to change the world. Literally, they want to know how they're going to save the world. And geologists and earth scientists are a critical part of that effort for sustainability. And that's true if you're a petroleum geologist or if you are a hydrologist. You're contributing.
You make a really good point that children are seeing from a young age all sorts of messages that are, basically apocalyptic messages about the earth
Mm-hmm.
and climate change, and then of course we all know about the extinction of the dinosaurs. That fascinated me as a little girl. And I think that makes a big difference, because I think that I don't know, there's that kind of worry. And so this is a solution. What are some of the things that you've seen?
Well, some of the things that I've seen that kids get excited about, and it happens to be my specialty, is observing how the earth is changing over time, over long periods of time and short periods of time. And there's nobody who understands that better than geologists. I mean, we understand deep time and the extinction of the dinosaurs and how that opened it up for the mammals and ended up with great apes walking the planet, that, and then here we are. So, you know, you can transmit that sort of message about the earth is constantly changing, and then you can show them evidence of how the earth is changing now and how humans are contributing not only to making some changes, but also to mitigating the changes. And I'm doing a workshop next week for teachers. It's about how to use satellite imagery to teach earth science and environmental science and ecosystems by showing how the planet is changing. And kids love to see that. I mean, you can sit down with fourth graders and show them an animation of satellite imagery and how a coastline is affected by a hurricane. And then it means something to them. If you're from Texas, you know what hurricanes are, and you know that they damage the coastline. And you, as a geologist, as an earth scientist, can help to mitigate some of that damage and make a difference to your community. And that's what kids want to know. And as a geologist, we're making a difference for our communities. That's the message we don't get across to people. They
I
don't
love
understand
that.
that we feel that way. Get that message across. You can make a difference.
Oh,
You
this
are
is
making a
really
difference.
wonderful. Yeah, and then also kind of solving mysteries. I think that
Yes.
things like, for example, it was always a big mystery to me. I remember riding horses with a friend of mine one summer in Nevada over basically a salar or lake salt
Oh,
flat,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
thinking, and then there were all types of little, well, there's diatomaceous earth and then the little fossils. I thought, why, oh, this used to be a lake, really, what? And then also fossils. So you talked about deep time, like showing how there used to be shallow marine environments.
hmm And showing how we can look at all this environmental history, and it'll help us to understand how our environment is changing today. And you know, the uh, looking at the past helps us to understand the present and prepare for things and how they're going to change. And that is something that kids will really sort of latch onto. They know the environment's changing, what's going to happen, what's going to be the outcome, how do scientists study that, and you know, to get across the fact that you're gathering data constantly because it's constantly changing. You're not going to say today something that's going to happen 50 years from now. Next year, you're going to take a look at the new data and say, oh, well, we need to readjust our thinking. And it seems to me like kids need to understand that that's how scientists work. They're constantly looking at new data, and so they may change their mind. They may say all the glaciers in the Himalayas are going to be gone by 2030. And then they look at some new data and they say, no, they won't be gone until 2050. That doesn't mean that they were wrong. That means that they got new data and they changed their mind. They learned something new. And that's what kids often don't learn about science. They sit in a class and they memorize, you know, all the geologic time scale, and they can give you all the dates and they memorize stuff. But they need to understand that scientists don't just memorize stuff and then never learn anything new.
I love that. So, for example, well, I'm thinking about our situation now with COVID-19 and the questions about going back into the classroom and also all of the web assisted type of activities. I was thinking of specific things that people could get excited about. I've seen virtual field trips, but I have not seen any virtual fossil digs. Have you?
No, but that would be fun. I'm sure there are. That's got to be out there. I am investigating and looking for resources resources for teachers, because AAPG Southwest section now has a K-12 outreach committee, and we're trying to put together resources so that we can make them available. So I'm working with other people in Southwest section to pull together as many resources as possible. And so I'm constantly looking for new stuff. And now that you've said that, I have to go find that. I have to find a virtual fossil dig. It's going to be there. I'm finding amazing things that I never suspected were out there. Universities that have entire virtual field trip collections.
Yes.
I found
Well,
one yesterday.
well, I was thinking, probably one good place to start might be the British Geological Survey, because they often have maps that show the indicator fossils that tied in. Who knows? But I'm thinking that's a good way
Okay,
to
I'm taking
dig.
notes. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna visit their website. I've been to the Smithsonian, and they
Oh,
have
yeah,
wonderful resources,
they
but
do.
the British Museum of Natural History, I'm sure, has some really fabulous materials that I need to investigate.
But we could put together, if we put together a kit, just let me know. We'll make it available to AAPG members too, or just everybody.
Well, it's exciting to find these new resources and to try to get them into the hands of teachers. That they are looking constantly, but they're also, what they're facing with having to do this fall, teaching in the classroom and online. They're going to be so busy. They're not going to be spending a lot of time looking for new resources. They need to be able to go someplace and just capture these things. And that's, one of the reasons I'm doing this workshop. I'm putting together little units for them that will guide them to really good resources for different kinds of videos, because if you're teaching online, you need videos, you need animations, you need activities to give your kids to do at home that are at a level they can do, and hopefully won't horrify their parents and say, oh, I can't possibly help with this. So
Right.
you know it's so
Difficult thing.
challenging now, and it's just, I've been thinking of ways to try to help parents who are trying to help their students at home, and it's a huge issue right now. So challenging.
Well, and then, yeah, speaking of the not fun things, so if a teacher or a geologist or a geophysicist decides they want to actually become a teacher, they'll have to learn about teaching standards, right?
They will, and it's going to be different in many states will have their own standards. Texas has the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills, and they're really powerful science standards at all grade levels. They're really impressive, but many states have adopted what are called the next generation science standards that came out of the National Academy of Sciences, and those are different. The focus is different. They're good too. So say if you teach in New Mexico, you're going to need to learn the NGSS. If you teach in Texas, you can completely ignore that and just learn the TEKS as their nickname.
Right.
So, but you do have to do that, because when I went into teaching, my problem was I wanted to teach everything in far more depth than you had time for in a single semester. So I was teaching freshman geology courses. And if you're at high school, you have a whole year, but you have a whole range of things you have to teach. And typically it's earth and space science. So if
Mhm.
you're not up on your planetary geology and your Big Bang theory, you're going to have to you learn that before you can go teach that at the high school level. You're at least going to have to review it. And you're going to have to know those standards, because if your state standards don't cover, just for example, tides or eclipses at the high
Mhm.
school level, and that's your favorite part of astronomy, you're not going to teach it. You're not going to add that. You're going to teach to the standards, and that's the way it's set up here in this country and in the States. And it can be a little bit frustrating.
Oh, absolutely. And I think it's finding that nexus where there's enthusiasm and excitement plus satisfying the standards that makes it so challenging.
My sister taught earth science, sixth grade earth science in New Mexico for years, and there was so much that she wanted to cover, and so many exciting things she could have done in her classroom that didn't fit the standards. And so after they had the state testing towards the end of the year, she might have 3 weeks where she could squeeze in the Mars exploration, and
Oh
which
my.
so, but until the test was done, she was stuck. She had to make sure the kids were prepared for those standardized tests. And there's so many things. If you're going to switch from industry to teaching, there's so many things that you're going to have to understand, and it's going to come as a shock. For example, you're going to have a personal relationship with, say, if you're teaching earth science at the middle school level, you may teach 5 sections of it, and there may be 35 kids in each section. And you're going to deal with each one of those kids every day at some level. That never happens in industry. and and they're children, they're not adults. And it's a shock to the system, even if they're high school kids, because it I remember my mother taught high school, and she couldn't believe those kids, but in good ways and bad. So, you have just a whole set of new ideas and ways you have to be open to people and ways you are going to deal with people, and your management is going to be completely different, how things are managed. If you're teaching earth science at the high school level and you think that's what you're going to do for the next 20 years or 10 years or however long you have left in your career, and your principal comes to you in March and says, we need you to teach chemistry next year, you're going to say, all right, I'll do that. And you're going to get ready to do it. And if he says you're going to teach biology, if she says you're going to teach physics, you're going to do it. And wow, what a shock to the system.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that's a reality. It happens all the time.
Wow. Yeah, well, I'm thinking back to my own high school experiences, and that I can see that, and especially like the junior high or mid-high level in middle school.
Well, and it happens to the biology teachers too. The principal comes to the biology teacher and says, we're going to start teaching earth science next year and you're going to do it. So, that's the thing that AAPG Foundation has been helping high school teachers. They've been funding scholarships for high school teachers to take an Earth and Space Science for Teachers class through American Geosciences Institute. So I really kudos to this foundation
Oh,
for
absolutely.
helping teachers. And a lot of the teachers who are in that class, when they send in their application for the scholarship, they say, I'm a high school biology teacher. I'm going to be teaching earth science next year for the first time. I need help.
Yes.
And the foundation has stepped up, which is really exciting to me. And they've added that K through 12 teacher training to their goals and are expanded it. They were already doing it with the Earth Science Teacher of the Year, but they've expanded it to help teachers who need to prepare. And even if you're already teaching earth science, you may need some new information or some new perspectives. So for people who are gonna, maybe honestly, maybe you've gotten laid off and you're going to start looking for high school teaching positions, there there's some things you need to know.
Well,
So
I'm really glad to hear about the foundation. I knew that they were doing some things, and I'm proud to say that every quarter I donate to the foundation, and I specify education. So I'm glad.
thank you, thank you. And I wish more AAPG members knew about what the foundation was doing to help, because when you get those high school teachers excited and prepared, then there are high school students who are starting to think, I'm going to go major in geology. And
Exactly.
we need that so much more. We need kids to start out majoring in geology and stick with it, and come and join us in this really exciting, productive, um, we're going to save the world a career. I mean, we're doing it right now.
Absolutely. Well, Rebecca, I just want to thank you for being willing to be here and have this really nice interview. And
Thank you.
and we'll make it available. I'll record it, and then I'll ask you for some contact information that we'll include in the notes.
Well, that's great. That's great because if people have questions about transitioning either to teaching high school or university level, I'm happy to talk with people, and I have tales to tell.
That's
There's a
great.
lot more to it than you think. It's a good transition to make, and I'm happy to talk with people about it. And thank you for this opportunity.
Oh no, thank you. This is great.
Okay.
Well, thank you. I'll talk
Okay.
to you later.
All right. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.